Namaste, Dandava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 22, Text 21. Maitreya Uvacha Sa Ugradanvan Iyad Eva Bhavasya Asichatushnim Aravindanabham Diopagrinan Smita Sobitena Mukhena Cheto Lulubhe Devhatya. Sri Maitreya said, O great warrior Vidura, the sage Kardama said this much only, and then became silent, thinking of his worshipful Lord Vishnu, who has a lotus on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahūti, who began to meditate upon the great sage. Purport. It appears that Kardama Muni was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness because as soon as he became silent, he at once began to think of Lord Vishnu. That is the way of Krishna consciousness. Pure devotees are so absorbed in thought of Krishna that they have no other engagement. Although they may seem to think or act otherwise, they are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna-conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. Sonu kyatpa pyabasitam mahishya duhitu sutam tasmai guna ganadhyaya tadotulyam praharshita. After having unmistakably known the decision of the queen, as well as that of Devahūti, the emperor most gladly gave his daughter to the sage, whose host of virtues was equaled by hers. Satarupa Maharajni Paribharhan Mahadanan Dampatyo Paryadat Pritya Bhusavasa Parichadan. Empress Satarupa lovingly gave most valuable presents suitable for the occasion, such as jewelry, clothes, and household articles, and dowry to the bride and bridegroom. Purport. The custom of giving one's daughter in charity with a dowry is still current in India. The gifts are given according to the position of the father of the bride. Paribharhan Mahadanan means the dowry which must be awarded. To the words Bhusha Vasa Parichadan also appear here. Here, Paribharan Mahadanan means the dowry which must be awarded to the bridegroom at the time of marriage. Here, Mahadanan means greatly valuable gifts befitting the dowry of an empress. The words Bhusha Vasa Parichadan also appear here. Bhusha means ornaments, Vasa means clothing, and Parichadan means various household articles. All things befitting the marriage ceremony of an emperor's daughter were awarded to Kardama Muni, who was until now observing celibacy as a brahmachari. The bride Devahūti was very richly dressed with ornaments and clothing. In this way, Kardama Muni was married with full opulence to a qualified wife and was endowed with the necessary paraphernalia for household life. In the Vedic way of marriage, such a dowry is still given to the bridegroom by the father of the bride. Even in poverty-stricken India, there are marriages where hundreds and thousands of rupees are spent for a dowry. The dowry system is not illegal, as some have tried to prove. The dowry is a gift given to the daughter by the father to show goodwill, and it is compulsory. In rare cases where the father is completely unable to give a dowry, it is enjoined that he must at least give a fruit and a flower. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, God can always be pleased even by a fruit and a flower. When there is financial inability and no question of accumulating a dowry by another means, one can give a fruit and flower for the satisfaction of the bridegroom. Text 24. Pratam duhitaram samrat sadrikshaya gatavyata uphaguya cha bahubhyam autkantyon matitasaya. Thus relieved of his responsibility by handing over his daughter to a suitable man, Svayambhuva Manu, his mind agitated by feelings of separation, embraced his affectionate daughter with both his arms. Purport. A father always remains in anxiety until he can hand over his grown-up daughter to a suitable boy. A father and mother's responsibility for children continues until they marry them to suitable spouses. When the father is able to perform that duty, he is relieved of his responsibility. Text 25. Asaknu vamstadviraham munchan bhaspa kalamuhu asinchad ambavatseti netrodharduhitushika. The emperor was unable to bear the separation of his daughter. Therefore, tears poured from his eyes again and again, drenching his daughter's head as he cried, "My dear mother, my dear daughter." Purport. The word Amba is significant. A father sometimes addresses his daughter in affection as mother and sometimes as my darling. The feeling of separation occurs because until the daughter is married, she remains the daughter of the father. But after her marriage, she is no longer claimed as a daughter in the family. She must go to the husband's house, for after marriage, she becomes the property of the husband. According to the Manu Samhita, a woman is never independent. She must remain the property of the father while she is not married, and she must remain the property of the husband until she is elderly and has grown-up children of her own. In old age, when the husband has taken sannyas and left home, she remains the property of the sons. A woman is always dependent either upon the father, the husband, or the elderly sons. That will be exhibited in the life of Devahūti. Devahūti's father handed over responsibility for her to the husband, Kardama Muni, and in the same way, Kardama Muni also left home, giving the responsibility to his son, Kapiladev. This narration will describe these events one after another. Text 26 through 27. Amantriyatam munivaram anugyata sahunuga pratiste ratam aruya sabharya svapuram nripa ubhayori shukuyaya sarasvatya sarodasha Krishnam upasan Rishinam upasantanam Pasyan ashrama sampada. After asking and obtaining the great sage's permission to leave, the monarch mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retinue. Along the way, he saw the prosperity of the tranquil seers, beautiful hermitages, and on both the charming banks of the Saraswati, the river so agreeable to saintly persons. Purport. As cities are constructed in the modern age with great engineering and architectural craftsmanship, so in days gone by were the neighborhoods called Rishikulas, where great saintly persons resided. In India, there are still many magnificent places for spiritual understanding. There are many rishis and saintly persons living in nice cottages on the banks of the Ganges and Yamuna, for purposes of spiritual cultivation. While passing through the Rishikulas, the king and his party were very much satisfied with the beauty of the cottages and hermitage. It is stated here, Pasyan ashrama sampada. The great sages had no skyscrapers, but the hermitages were so beautiful that the king was very much pleased at the sight. Text 28. Tam ayantam abhipratya brahma vartat prajapatim gita samstuti vaditrai pratyudhiyu praharshita. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came forth from Brahmavarta to greet their returning lord with songs, prayers, and musical instruments. Purport. It is the custom of the citizens of a kingdom's capital to receive the king when he returns from a tour. There is a similar description when Krishna returned to Dwarka after the Battle of Kurukshetra. At that time, he was received by all classes of citizens at the gate of the city. Formerly, capital cities were surrounded by walls, and there were different gates for regular entrance. Even in Delhi today, there are old gates, and some other old cities have such gates where citizens would gather to receive the king. Here also the citizens of Varhishmati, the capital of Brahmavarta, the kingdom of Swayambhuva, came nicely dressed to receive the emperor with decorations and musical instruments. 29 through 30. Varhismati namhapuri sarva sampat samhanvita nyapatan yatra romani yagyasyangam vidhunvata kushakashasta evasan Shasvadharita Varshasa Rishayo Yai Parabhavya Yagyagan Yagyam Ijire. The city of Varhismati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Boar. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusa grass and kasa, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshipped Lord Vishnu, after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifices. Purport. Any place directly connected with the Supreme Lord is called Pitastana. Varhismati, the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, was exalted not because the city was very rich in wealth and opulence, but because the hairs of Lord Varaha fell at this very spot. These hairs of the Lord later grew as green grass, and the sages used to worship the Lord with that grass after the time when the Lord killed the demon Hiranyaksha. Yagya means Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, karma is described as yagyartha. Yagyartha karma means work done only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. If something is done for the sense gratification or any other purpose, it will be binding upon the worker. If one wants to be freed from the reaction of his work, he must perform everything for the satisfaction of Vishnu, or yagya. In the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, Varhismati, these particular functions were being performed by the great sages and saintly persons. 31. Kusakasamayam barhir astirya bhagavan manu ayajadhyagya purusham labdhastanam yatobhuvam. Manu spread a seat of kushas and kashas and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. Purport. Manu is the father of mankind, and therefore from Manu comes the word man, or in Sanskrit, manusya. Those who are in a better position in the world, having sufficient wealth, should especially take lessons from Manu, who acknowledged his kingdom and opulence to be gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus always engaged in devotional service. Similarly, the descendants of Manu, or human beings, especially those who are situated in a well-to-do condition, must consider that whatever riches they have are gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those riches should be utilized for the service of the Lord and sacrifices performed to please him. That is the way of utilizing wealth and opulence. No one can achieve wealth, opulence, good birth, and beautiful body, or nice education without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, those who are in possession of such valuable facilities must acknowledge their gratefulness to the Lord by worshiping him and offering what they have received from him. When such acknowledgement is given, either by a family, nation, or society, their abode becomes like Vaikuntha, and it becomes free from the operation of the threefold miseries of this material world. In the modern age, the mission of Krishna consciousness is for everyone to acknowledge the supremacy of Lord Krishna. Whatever one has in his possession must be considered a gift by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, everyone should engage in devotional service through Krishna consciousness. If one wants to be happy and peaceful in his position, either as a householder or citizen or member of the human society, one must promote devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. Text 32. Barhismatim namavibur yam nirvisya samasvasat tasyam pravisto bhavanam tapatraya vinashanam. Having entered the city of Barhismati, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace, which was filled with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of material existence. Purport. The material world, or material existential life, is filled with threefold miseries. Miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to the natural disturbances, and miseries inflicted by other living entities. Human society is meant to create a spiritual atmosphere by spreading the spirit of Krishna consciousness. The miseries of material existence cannot affect the status of Krishna consciousness. It is not that the miseries of the material world completely vanish when one takes to Krishna consciousness, but for one who is Krishna conscious, the miseries of the material existence have no effect. We cannot stop the miseries of the material atmosphere, but Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to protect us from being affected by the miseries of material existence. For a Krishna conscious person, both living in heaven and living in hell are equal. How Swayambhuva Manu created an atmosphere wherein he was not affected by material miseries is explained in the following verses. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 33 on Monday. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadut Dham Ki Jai, Nishringapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai,
Jai.
Ai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan
Jai.
Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Jai Sri Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Sri Lalita Saptami Ki Jai,
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Bol, Jai Shrimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai.
Jai Gurudev. श्रीपाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय.
Dhanyavad Pranam Sthiti.
धन्यवाद प्रभु जी. धन्यवाद.